At 6 o'clock.
Is everybody ready? It's 7 o'clock. All right, let's get started. I'll call this meeting of Saanich Council to order on Monday, August 7th. I'd like to welcome the audience to the modified chamber design. It's something that we're experimenting with. The council had a meeting, I can't remember, it was at least a week ago, where we all sat with the architect and took a look at some designs that had come forth as a suggestion through our administrator. And at the end of that meeting, it was proposed that the chair be shuffled around. So that's what you're looking at. I don't know if we're any closer to you, or if you can see us any better. We're looking for your feedback on this as well. It's not just something we've decided. Certainly I've got a better view of you, as you've got a better view of my colleagues as well. And don't have to look at the backs of everyone's heads for 3 or 4 hours. So I think just in that regard alone, it's a great improvement. So, great, thank you for that. So with that, we'll move on with the council meeting. And the council meeting tonight is our once-a-month format where we have the council meeting, and then we shut down the council and we move to the open format, the community forum, where you can come up and have your say on any item. And I take notes, and then those get forwarded to the staff and we try to take action on those. So we'll start off with the council meeting, and with that, we'll start with the adoption of the minutes. And over to you, Madam Clerk. You can introduce that item for us, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This first item is the adoption of the minutes, the special council meeting of August 11th, the council and committee of the whole meetings of August 17th. For adoption, please.
Move the minutes.
Any changes to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the motion. All in favor? All opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. So we'll move on to the public input portion of the council meeting, where you can come and speak on items C1 and 2 and D1 and 2. Those are the resolutions and reports from members of council. Now, something else I didn't introduce in the beginning is there has been a timer that's been added to the podium out there. It looks like a little stoplight, green, yellow, and red, and it's very similar to what the CRD has been using for a number of years. So as you come up to speak, the clerk who runs the timer is then going to start it off, and it'll go green for a while, and I think, Madam Clerk, with a minute to go, it'll go yellow.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Right, just to give you an indication that there's a minute left for speaking time, and if you can wrap up your comments by the end of 5 minutes, that would be appreciated. So with that, I'll call for public input on items C and D. Are there any members of the public that wish to come forward?
Things have changed a lot. I love this. I love this. It's like a round table more. And we certainly can see the councilors' faces a whole lot better than before. So it's wonderful. You can't see your pretty faces as well, but you can't win with everything. So.
For the record, can we get your name and your address?
Oh, yes.
And what item you're speaking to?
Yes, Larry Lane, 1850 San Lorenzo. I'm so new to all this. I don't know anything about C or D. And so I want to know how I can find out about that information in more detail than what's here on this agenda, so that I can puzzle it out, think about it a bit. And so one thought I had was, I don't know how that goes for others, you have the public input first, and for someone like me, I don't know what I would be inputting on. But so I wondered if there was any way that one could do do the item and then ask, is there any public input? As a follow-up to be included before you make your final summations and your vote.
Okay, so just to answer your question, the reports, resolutions, memos, and things that are accompany the agenda are usually posted on the website, and they're always available from the Legislative Services Office. I don't know how many copies are actually put at the back of the media table. There's often a full package that's put there, but maybe 1 or 2 copies only, and they get grabbed up by the media. So if you just come in with the agenda, you're left with our format wondering what to talk about. So I think if you go through one of those 2 sources, you'll find what you're looking for, and be prepared as you want to be to come speak to these items.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So you'd advise me to get here maybe half an hour early and pick up one of those and have a chance to read it then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem, that's good. I do want to say something about the Green Municipal Fund application. Where does that money come from? Where is that money coming from? Is it federal, is it provincial, is it, and again, my ignorance, I apologize for.
Sure, thank you. That's a fund that's under the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and the members of this council support that federation, and there's membership money that's put forward to that organization, and as well that it taps money from the federal government, and that money is applied for by municipalities and dispersed on behalf of FCM by the fund managers. Is that correct enough? Councilor German?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's substantially it. The federal government initially placed a substantial amount of money in the range of $500 million with FCM. They must keep the fund at a certain level financially, and within the constraints of how much the fund has grown, they're able to award grants through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities.
So all municipalities can apply for that $500,000,
It's in the original capitalization of the fund was in the range of $500 million.
$500
Billion. And the FCM cannot disperse all the monies. They must keep the fund at a certain level and can provide grants, loans from the amount that the fund is above that.
All right, that's great. I am an advocate of the federal government giving us more of the pie. As I understand, we only get 8% of the federal funds, and yet municipalities have a bulk of things to be responded to, intended to. And I don't know how you go about inquiring about that being boosted for us, but the infrastructure that we have to look after, and things like health care, medical, not medical care, but mental health care, we're always short-handed. So I'd love to see us get a little more help federally, and maybe bump that up. Even double it would be nice. Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Just before I ask the next speaker, just to clarify, I think my own understanding is that it's the 8% you were talking about is often referred to as the 8 cents on the dollar that municipalities get from the federal government to help run their municipalities. That amount has been the same for quite some time, and there's a lot of lobbying that goes on to try to increase that amount, but it has been static for that period of time. The federal government largely raises its money through income taxes, so it's that 8 cents on the dollar from the income taxes that you pay that makes it back to your municipality as a direct reward on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next speaker, please.
Okay. Bonjour tout le monde, I'm back from Quebec. Karen Harper, 3430 Bonaire Place. I'm somewhat startled even to be up tonight because I was startled to see this topic on the agenda, and I speak of item D2, which I think is, quite frankly, a tempest in a teapot. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Mayor Atwell for having a Facebook page. I think this is part of what all of you have talked about in terms of having open, transparent access, as was promised during the campaign, and this is one way that this occurs, so I think it's an important thing. But I think we all appreciate that with Facebook pages come interesting times on occasion. So a variety of feedback can occur, and questions from members of the public. Some will be positive, some will be negative, some will be uncomfortable. And I should say I did read the entire feed even though I was away. And this is normal. And it's good for you to know what the public thinks and is saying. You should want to know what the public is saying and thinking. To try to limit this in some way is inherently problematic. Firstly, of course, free speech is protected as a fundamental freedom under Section 2 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Secondly, any such action or attempt will be viewed by most of the informed public as trying to muzzle public debate, which I'm sure you don't mean to do, but that's how it will be viewed, and or their concerns, as well as it being totally unenforceable. So you may think you only need a little tweak to deal with this matter. But, as Frederick Law Olmsted said, the greatest danger to liberty lurks in insidious encroachment by men of zeal, well-meaning but without understanding. It's difficult to go a little way without keep on edging forward. So while we may not always like what we hear or see, Lord knows I don't, it is part of living in a democratic society. Think of uncomfortable feedback as an opportunity to figure out how to improve. Whether, because I can tell you that's certainly what we did at the Pension Corporation when we were in quite perilous times at the beginning of our career. Take that uncomfortable feedback, go with it, make improvements. This is what successful businesses do. And I would like to think of Saanich someday as being a successful business ultimately. We are, of course, your policy holders, as it were. So I strongly urge you to let this matter drop for both the sake of Saanich's reputation and for the public who don't want to feel that they are being intimidated by those they elected. As attributed to Voltaire, the right approach is, I do not agree with what you have to say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward. It seems like the microphone needs to be closer. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Bob Ferber, 2751 Arbutus Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm gratified that Saanich is finally referring to its 2013 public participation policy. In terms of public participation, Saanich has taken a good first step already with the development of its public participation policy and handbook. Now what is needed is a staff community development professional to make the public participation policy operational by getting everyone, council, committees, all levels of staff, community associations, businesses and residents to buy into its values and make it part of their daily work life. It will take someone with very special communication and staff community development skills, and such people exist. They're available. In addition, making the public participation policy operational will only be possible if there is a broad and genuine desire for public participation. A lot more than an election slogan. The report, Public Consultation on the Financial Plan on page 3 of today's agenda, paints Saanich as a huge, mindless machine that is immensely difficult to alter. It says it will take 3 years and a significant number of additional staff and software to deliver by 2018. Sorry, but this is approaching the issue backwards. It is analogous to safety in manufacturing. Increasing the number of staff does not make for improved safety. The only way to make improved safety is for workers to truly value safety and to be constantly mindful of it, to live safety. It's all about people buying into, believing in, and living and breathing the sought-after values such as safety in manufacturing or public engagement here at Saanich. In the meantime, why wait to 2018 on the public engagement front when we could be moving forward now by hiring a knowledgeable professional who could start to bring this value to life right now? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on items under C and D? Please come forward.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, staff members. My name is Haji Charania, and I reside at 757 Genevieve Road. This evening I'm speaking as an individual. And I wish to speak on items C1 and D1. C1, I want to thank our Director of Finance for a report and recommendation. Given the historical lack of public participation in SANI, especially for the financial matters, I'm inclined to support the recommendation that is option 2B. However, I want to offer the following comments. I don't have to tell you, Council, you know, tougher economic times appears to be on the horizon for the next few months and potentially for the next few years. Therefore, financial discipline and restraint will be necessary. Number 2, for meaningful public participation, SANIC will have to provide information and education on the intricacies of municipal finances and promote participation. And finally, number 3, I'm always interested in Council's direction and effort of senior staff to seek out efficiencies by eliminating overlaps, duplications, and redundancies in the program and systems. In addition, service integration, contracting out of work, and seasonal workforce are obvious savings which come to my mind, but skillful staff may be more innovative in this area. On item D1, I have the following comments to offer. I want to thank Councillor Bryce for bringing this item to Council. I'm quite familiar with the property and the house which has been built upon. The property also went through the Board of Variance, where, as I recall, the application requesting a height variance was denied because of lack of proven hardship and lack of neighbor support and or participation. In my opinion, the issues surrounding this property are more than just public participation or public consultation and notification. My 5 minutes will not allow me to elaborate on what I have known about the property and what I've heard way before the last election. Therefore, I will just agree in principle with the recommendation put forward by Councillor Bryce. However, with all due respect, I would urge Councillor Bryce to add the following as a minor amendment, Madam. In addition to what you have said, I would urge you to put, in addition, SANIC will carry out all other due diligence, such as ESR, EDPA, streamside protection, etc., as appropriate before a division or a subdivision and the public sale is undertaken by the municipalities. And you know, under the Municipal Act or the Local Government Act, the subdivision officer also can call a public meeting if he or she chooses to. Thank you so much. I'm well within my time. Bye for now.
Thank you, Haji.
I have to walk this.
I might let you bank that minute. That was a great speech. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Calling for a second time.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Catherine Whitworth, 4548 Beaumont Avenue. I am speaking to item D2. Whether we agree or disagree with social media, it is here to stay and has become thoroughly ingrained into our daily lives. Nonetheless, the old adage, "Don't believe everything that you read," is more relevant today than when first coined many, many years ago. In regards to Councillor Haines' memo on disparaging remarks on the Mayor of Saanich Facebook page, this incident is a sad testament to those to something that had such a simple solution. That is, phone or email the Director of Planning to see if, in this instance, whether or not Lowe's had an application and post the accurate information on the Facebook page. The question remains, why did the mayor not make the phone call to planning? In taking a survey of councillors' Facebook pages this morning, I learned that 4 had, quote, open postings available to their friends. 2 had closed sites, so no postings to their friends, and 2 didn't have any Facebook sites. Mayor Atwell chooses to have an open posting available to his friends. I am all for freedom of speech. However, when you do not take ownership of what was clearly misinformation, then I do have a problem with that. Mayor Atwell does in fact monitor his Mayor of Saanich Facebook page, as I would like to note that 6 postings under the Lowe's thread were deleted between August the 16th and 19th, resulting in only 43 comments showing where there was actually 49 posted. The crux is not the subject matter itself, but whether or not the mayor monitors his Facebook page. As I stated, Mayor Atwell, or a designate he has appointed, does monitor this page, but chose not to make any attempt to correct the misinformation. In my opinion, this is unacceptable. As mayor, you represent Saanich and at all times must promote Saanich, its policies and its staff to the highest standards. I would now like to make comment on some of the disparaging remarks that were posted and allowed to remain on this Facebook page in question. As a resident of Saanich and a member of the public in general, I am offended by these inappropriate rants. For example, August the 16th at 7:16 a.m., per Paul Ding, and I quote, "Get better staff, senior staff. Saanich has the worst senior staff in the business, and the lack of mentorship passes down the ranks. Help the mayor rid your town of these incompetent posers." End of quote. August 16th at 12:45 p.m., Bob Etheridge, quote, "Come and listen to our incumbent resident champion for respectful behavior and
Ms. Whitworth, I'm going to have to stop you right there, and it's not because I don't want to hear your remarks, but there's a respectful workplace policy
Yes,
here in
and
Saanich.
That's right. Okay,
And
that's fine. I will skip it. Thank you.
Actually, before I'd like to let you continue, I'd like to hear from our staff on whether or not they believe it's okay for you to proceed.
Fine.
So I'll go over to our administrator.
Your Worship, I think your point's well taken. Our view, as I understand the position of the delegation, my advice would be that not to necessarily repeat things that are posted there, and that issues with respect to staff
Sure.
not be discussed.
Okay.
So I apologize for having to cut you off there.
No,
Yeah,
I
it's
understand that,
clarification,
Mr. Mayor.
But I think it's a relevant issue here, and these items are...
Well, I was only addressing what Councillor Haynes spoke of.
I wanted to finish, please. Well, I'd like to finish. So, Councillor Haynes, we're in a public meeting, and we're listening to the public, and I merely wanted a clarification from our staff on whether or not this was appropriate or not. And we've heard from our staff that there is advice that it's not appropriate to repeat, and so I'm simply going ahead with staff advice, and I've allowed Ms. Whitworth to continue. Please continue, Ms. Whitworth.
Okay, skipping on. Honestly, what do these rants have to do with the Lowe's application anyway? These same people who post on another third-party open Facebook group believe that there was no disparaging remarks. I leave that up to you to determine that. Nonetheless, Mr. Mayor, is this the image of Saanich that you wish to project to the world? This is a public site where you are using your status as mayor, ergo whatever is posted does and will affect not only yourself, but staff and residents alike. I see very little leadership if you allow the Mayor of Saanich Facebook page to continue on as it currently is. My recommendation to Mayor and Council is that if you are not planning on monitoring your Facebook or Twitter feeds, then do not make them accessible to the public postings and save yourself the embarrassment that surely will follow you. In closing, I would like to leave you with this gem that my niece posted on her social media page this afternoon. Successful people build each other up. They motivate, they inspire, and they push each other. Unsuccessful people just hate, blame, and complain. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitworth. I have a question for you. You listed
Yeah.
that there were some posts that were deleted. Do you have
Yes.
anything to provide?
I can give you documents that prove that posts were deleted.
And who's the designate that you're referring to?
I'm sorry?
You referred to a designate that monitors.
No,
the
I said, or a designate, because I don't have intimate knowledge of if you monitor it yourself or if you have somebody else do it for
All
you.
right, thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name's Darren Morris, 4453 Fairmont Place, Victoria. I'm the perpetrator of D2. First off, my apologies for the forum that I used. I should have phoned planning, as was suggested. It was just that seeing as you're open on Facebook and seem quite approachable, I thought it would be a really good place to post that it seems an inordinate long time for the process to be approved and to get a business in when the economy is the way it is. It was not supposed to be a personal attack. It wasn't supposed to be an attack on Saanich or any of the council members. I was merely trying to find out why the process took so long. So, as I said, when I posted, if I was wrong, I will apologize. And as pointed out to me, there was no application put forward, so I apologize. But I still stand by my question is why does it take so long for an approval for a business to actually do business in Saanich? So again, council members, my apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any of the members of the public that wish to come forth? Calling for a third time. Any members of the public that wish to speak? All right, thank you for everyone that came forward to speak on that. That was very interesting. And thank you for the submission. I've taken a look at it and I'll address it when I get to item D2. So with that, we'll close public input and we'll move on to resolutions for adoption, item C1. Can you please introduce that for us, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item C1 is public consultation on the financial plan. The report of the Director of Finance is recommending that Council provide direction to staff for amendments to the financial plan public consultation process policy by confirming that participation on the financial plan will be on a consult level, and also that Council provide direction to staff for developing these policies.
Thank you. Councilors? Yes. Over to you, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As council is aware, this is the third in a series of 3 reports that have been coming forward about the budget, this final one on the consultation process. I've tried to provide a range of options for council to consider, to have some dialogue about what public consultation on the financial plan will look like. I've provided the full 4-year holistic, sort of the big plan for consideration, and right down to some simple low-hanging fruit options that would be relatively simple and inexpensive to implement on a short time frame, and then something that falls in between that is a little bit more scalable. So this is to give council an option to see what the 3 options, sort of the 3 levels, small, medium, and large would look like, and to provide some direction to staff on where we want to go with this and what further information we can bring back.
Thank you. Councilor Dermott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move the recommendation.
Councilor Dermott.
Thank you. That is to be, of course.
Councilor Dermott, can I recognize you for bringing these to council's attention earlier and having it developed?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that. When I did bring this forward to council, it was of a concern the fact that while we have had a process of consultation with the public on the budget, it has occurred quite late in the process of developing the budget. And I think the perception amongst many of the public was the big decisions have been made. And essentially the budget has been formed, and now it is a case of council looking and deciding whether the proposed tax increase is appropriate or whether there is a need for trim and how that might be done. Not essentially what kinds of large changes might be made or suggested or examined before the budget process begins. For that to happen, a couple of things would have to change, and I really appreciate this report and the thoroughness of it, and thank staff for it. But obviously there has to be, first of all, opportunities earlier in the process, at least in the spring of when that budget is going to, or early summer, but more likely late spring, of when that budget is going to be started and developed for the public to put input as to what their concerns are. But the second thing that really has to happen, I think, and that's on page 5 of the report, where it details